What is up everyone, Dan here, and today I'm going to be doing my review for The Punisher, which is of course the new Marvel Netflix show, and probably my most anticipated show in the Marvel TV universe this year. I mean, I know we have the Defenders, but I was always interested in this one just a little bit more because I was just so intrigued as to how they were going to portray the character of Frank Castle in his own season, how they would handle the violence, his backstory, and just everything like that. I was very interested with it, and also just to kind of save the Marvel Netflix shows this year, because I mean we had Iron Fist, which wasn't terrible, but it was definitely lackluster in a lot of areas, and the Defenders, although good, I did find a little bit disappointing in comparison to how good it could have been. So I was a little bit skeptical going into Punisher, but those worries were pretty much brushed aside quite early on, because The Punisher is easily the best Marvel Netflix show this year, hands down. There is absolutely no debate behind this. This show is fantastic. It's brutal, it's unrelenting, it's got a fantastic performance by Jon Bernthal as the Punisher, and there's just so much to like about it. And honestly, I would go as far as to say that I'd rank this among Daredevil Season 1 and Season 2. I think it's that amazing. It's probably my third favourite season of the Marvel Netflix shows. Let's just get the standout positives out of the way here. Jon Bernthal as the Punisher is freaking amazing. I cannot think of a more perfect casting choice for the Punisher than Jon Bernthal. He gives all in this performance. He's fantastic. I mean, I loved him in Daredevil Season 2, but here in his own show, and getting to flesh out his backstory more and his relationships with his ex-Marine colleagues is fantastic. And just the way that Jon Bernthal is able to convey so much emotion on his face without even speaking half of the time, it's just fantastic. And you really feel for this character, who in reality we should hate, for being this killer. But the backstory behind him and Jon Bernthal's performance just gives so many layers to this character, to the point where you can't help but feel root for him, even though you know he's doing shit that is very morally questionable, to say the least. I thought that most of the supporting characters around him were very good as well. The standout ones for me were by far the characters of Billy Russo, who is of course an ex-partner of Frank Castle's in the Marine. I thought he was a fantastic addition. Going into the show, I didn't actually remember, funny enough, what happens to his character in the comics, and I won't spoil it for those who maybe don't want it spoiled for them or want to go in fresh, but what I will say is that I found him to be a very interesting character, and just the way that he changes over the course of the season, yeah, it definitely caught me off guard on quite a few sections, and I just found his character to be so interesting. And another character that I really enjoyed as well was Micro, who was kind of the main big bad of this season. I thought he was a fantastic character as well. Very layered in terms of for his motivations. I mean, considering that I really don't like hacker characters all that often in TV shows, Micro is one of the few exceptions, because he's one of those villains who you understand very well. And I would honestly go as far as to say that he's probably my favorite villain in the Marvel Netflix shows since Kilgrave in Jessica Jones Season 1. He's that good, and I definitely think he'll probably go down as quite an underrated villain, considering I don't really see that many people talking about him, which is quite kind of shocking considering how much I really enjoyed him. Karen Page from Daredevil also shows up in a few episodes this season, and I thought she was very well done as well. The way that she was integrated into the story, it made sense considering the relationship that she and Frank Castle had in Daredevil Season 2, and her inclusion here was very good. Some of the best moments of this season were by far with the two of them talking together, and just them getting to understand each other, more and more. Of course, this is after, the Defenders, where, spoilers, obviously, Matt Murdock is believed to be dead. So Karen's obviously going through that, the guilt of that, while, Frank Castle is going through the guilt of, the fact that he still hasn't got over his family's death. I just felt like that connection between the two was very well portrayed, and I thought the actors did a good job on screen together as well. The action here as well is fantastic. This is easily some of my favourite action in the Marvel Netflix shows, because compared to Daredevil, where it's very choreographed, and also Iron Fist to some extent, when they could actually choreograph on that show, The Punisher is just all-out brutality. There's very little choreography in this, or at least it came across like that to me, and I really enjoyed that. The fact that they could get away with a lack of choreography, for the fact that they could show so much blood on screen and have such brutal fights, and I found some of them honestly quite hard to watch, but not in the bad way, in the way that it's amazing, but at the same time it's harrowing, because you're seeing a guy who we're supposed to root for doing such brutal things to other people, and I just found those fight scenes to be fantastic. Probably some of my favorite fight scenes of this year are in The Punisher. I did find some fight scenes to maybe have a few too many cuts in them, but other than that, I want to say about 90% of the fights this season I thought were fantastic and very, very well done. I thought the themes that they covered as well were very, very well handled as well. The themes of gun control and PTSD, and whether soldiers really recover after wars and whether they're really the same person. I thought those themes were covered very well, especially considering that the main hero uses guns quite frequently to take down his enemies. But I found that whole theme was worked in very well, and I thought the issues were tackled in a very smart way, but weren't too force fed onto the show or put on there as an expensive story. Now, in terms of negatives for this season, I did mention already that I felt like some of the fight scenes had a few too many cuts in them. I'm just one of those people that doesn't really like a lot of quick cuts and action scenes because it really just is only done to mask poor stunt work, in my opinion. And it does happen in some fights, but for the majority of them, I didn't really have a problem with it. My main issue with this season really came with the whole police procedural side of the story. I found that to easily be the least interesting part. The sections that focus on the character of Dina Mandani. I think that's how you say her name. I really didn't like her character all that much. I thought she was nowhere near as interesting as the other characters, in my opinion. Other than the connection that she has to Billy Russo, I just didn't really find her all that interesting, to be perfectly honest. And maybe they could have used more episodes to develop her character more, to make her more interesting. But on the whole, I just found it to be a very boring character, in my honest opinion. And some of the episodes definitely felt a bit too slow, but this was mainly within, I want to say, the first 5 episodes of this season. Because after that, I think the show really kicks off. The last 3 episodes are near enough flawless, in my opinion. Fantastic representation of the Punisher character. But yeah, the first half of the season does suffer from a lot of slow pacing, mainly because of a lack of fight scenes. But after that, it does get a lot better. And I wouldn't even say that the first 5 episodes were bad. I think they're definitely good, at times great, but probably not as amazing as I really hoped that they could have been. Overall, I really enjoyed The Punisher Season 1. I think it's easily, like I said, the best Netflix Marvel show this year. It's absolutely fantastic, brutal, and it has probably one of the best leading actor performances in all of the Marvel Netflix shows. The Punisher is easily my second favorite main character in the Marvel TV universe, behind Daredevil, and I cannot wait to see where they go with this show if it ends up getting a second season. I'm going to give Marvel's The Punisher a 9 out of 10.